Hey guys, it's Rachel and welcome back to my channel. It's been a hot minute since I have filmed anything. I pre-filmed a whole lot of videos and spaced them out in preparation for having my son here. So it's been like, and I think, funny thing, I'll tell you when I actually did that. I did that on the day that I went into labor. Actually, I was in labor, and unbeknownst to me. So I haven't been able to sit down and actually do anything because he's been keeping me so incredibly busy. Our house is really not conducive to me filming with my husband taking care of him because the walls are really thin. Well, maybe. I might just be making excuses, but I'm back. New mom here. I decided not to do an update video on what I bought in October. And probably not in November either. Not because I didn't want to show what I bought, but because it'll be a lot of stuff, so it'll take a while. And maybe I will one day, but I think I can only get one video done for now. Video talking about my birthing experience. If you're new here, hi, my name is Rachel. I do lifestyle and beauty videos. I've been on a makeup no-buy for all of 2019. If I need to buy makeup, it's only to replace something, with the exception of lip products. I've been expanding my collection there because I have had all of my focus on makeup for my whole life. So I've been expanding my experiences by using a budget to buy other things. And lately, since I have not been pregnant anymore, I've been working on building up my wardrobe. But that's not what this video is about. Today I want to talk about what happened with this little guy. He's just so cute. If you hear sounds, that's him. He's napping in his little Tula. The only way sometimes I can get him to nap during the day is if I'm wearing him. He does not like being put down, so that's why he's in the video today. So to start out, my pregnancy it didn't have any complications. I didn't have gestational diabetes and I didn't have preeclampsia. I did have high blood pressure though. And so the doctor had decided to induce me at 38 weeks. Due to my high blood pressure, I had to have non-stress tests done with him, which if you don't know what that is, you go to the hospital and they lay you down and they hook you up to the monitors. They go across your belly and one measures contractions and one measures the baby's heartbeat. And you'll have that on your belly when you are in labor. But they do a stress test to see, are you having early contractions and is his heart rate doing okay, because your blood pressure has been so high. Funny thing, I was supposed to be induced at 38 weeks and 0 days at 5 a.m. in the morning. So my husband and I were gearing up, we're getting ready, and at about 8 o'clock the night before, we had been watching a movie and I had gone to the bathroom and I felt like, okay, I'd gone to the bathroom, I stood up and I was like, I think I need to go to the bathroom again. And so I do, and of course I don't have to go to the bathroom, and I stand up. There's fluid on the floor, and it's not a lot of fluid. It's like a little bit of fluid. So it's more than I was comfortable with. And I call my husband. I'm like, oh my gosh, does this look like my water broke? And he's like, I'm not sure. So I called the hospital and they said, put in a pad. If it soaks up within an hour, come here. And I'm like, okay. Well, I put in a pad. I had leaked a little more a couple times, but this wasn't like a big to-do. So I never really found out if I had leaked or not, if my water actually broke. I might have just peed myself. I might have had to go to the hospital and pee myself. Anyway, point being, that was about 8 o'clock. They said, you don't have to hurry, but just come in. So by like 10 o'clock, we had gone to McDonald's on the way there because I knew I wasn't going to be able to eat. And we checked in, we got there and they said, well, you're going to be induced at 5 a.m. anyway. We're just going to go ahead and admit you. And I said, okay. We got there and they got me in the gown, and then they do a test to see if there's amniotic fluid leaking. nobody told me whether that was positive or negative. I didn't find that out until after I had him, when I got the actual test results on my app, and it came back negative. I had taken a parenting class like a week before we had him, and it said that it doesn't always come back positive, so it doesn't really mean much. They hooked me up to the monitor, and it took her quite a while to get all that set up because he kept moving around. He would move away from his heart monitor, and she had to keep readjusting it because they couldn't track him very well. Once, like 30 minutes later, they got that all done and ready, they let me sleep. Oh, well, before, I should have written this stuff down so I could go in chronological order. And they would come in to check on me, and I don't know at what point. Yes, it had to have been like, I want to say 2 in the morning, so a couple of hours later, she came in and asked me how those contractions doing, and I was like, you're getting kind of strong. So what happened was, I came in for an induction, and I thought my water broke, but whether it did or it didn't, apparently I had been having contractions. And I just thought they were Braxton Hicks because they were really low in my uterus. It was kind of like a period cramp. And I thought it was just Braxton Hicks because what I thought was that if I'm having like contractions, I'm expecting my whole belly to be like contracting. That's not what happened. So apparently I had been having contractions all day, and I just thought they were Braxton Hicks. I sat down and I filmed 4 videos while in labor. Didn't know I was in early labor. At about 2 in the morning, she said, do you want Cytotol, which is a drug that they put that kind of makes you a little woozy, to kind of take the edge off until you can have an epidural. And I said, yes, I need to get some sleep. And they administered it, and I was like drunk. I'm laying in bed. And as soon as they gave it to me, I was like, woo! I had some of that medicine, kind of took the edge off a little bit. And then at about 4 in the morning, I want to say, the doctor came in to actually like break the water bag. Whether or not I had it leaking didn't really matter. He broke it big time. Like, he got his little tool in there and pulled it out, and it was a gush. It was a warm gush, and I think I remember saying, that's disgusting. I peed, it was like the worst feeling, like you peed your pants. He had checked, they had been checking me the whole time. When I got to the hospital, I was already at a 2 at my last appointment. When they gave me the Cytotol, I had been at like a 3, and when I got my water broke, I was at a 4. So he said, you can go ahead and get the epidural whenever you're ready. You're far enough along. And I was like, okay, well, let's do it before I get to the point where I can't sit still to administer the needle in your back. I wanted an epidural, first of all, and I'm so glad that I did that, and I wanted to be rested enough to push. So we called for the epidural, and about an hour later they came to administer it at about 5 in the morning. And I'm glad that I told them early that I wanted it, because it took a while for him to get to me. And by this time, in between them telling me, like breaking my water and me getting an epidural in the span of an hour, my contractions increased like tenfold. And I'm like squeezing the crap out of my husband's hand. And they actually said I did a really good job sitting on the bed, hunched over for the needle to go in. I had like 2 contractions while it was going on, and I was trying to be really, really still, and everybody was really impressed that I was still, and so was I. I was like super worried. You know, they're putting a needle in your spine, you don't want to jump around, but they put it in, and you know, you had that feeling that goes up your back like somebody poured cold water on you. I didn't know what that was. He said I had that feeling, and I thought that he had like applied a gel or something to my back for the procedure. And he said, you're gonna feel this, yada, yada, yada. And I go, oh, I already did. And I thought that was you. And he's like, no, that's you. I was like, oh, okay, that's great, awesome. So I had the epidural, and she put me on my side and put a peanut ball between my legs, which is just what it sounds like. It's a really huge ball shaped like a peanut that you put between your legs. And by the time I had gotten there, yeah, I was looking at a 4-ish. They said, we're gonna let you sleep and we're just gonna keep checking on you. So I had the peanut ball there for quite a while. It was like, I want to say 10:30 that she came and checked me and said, because I had been asleep, so by the time I woke up and she checked me, she said, okay, you're at a 9.5. And I'm like, what? A 9.5? I was planning on being here for days. I haven't even been here, like, I've only been here for 12 hours, and it's almost time to push. It's almost time to push, and it was nuts. She's like, you're at a 9.5, and I'm like, okay, but things are starting to feel a little weird. I said, I don't think this epidural is working anymore. I had started to feel contractions, like back labor, pretty bad, pretty intense. It was mostly like my lower back up, like down through my butt and the backs of my thighs, all the way down to my knees. With each contraction, it would like come in like a wave, and then it would go away, and it was in my butt. And it was super uncomfortable. And they said, well, we can top you off. You have this little thing. And I go, yeah, I pushed it. It's not working. Like, it's giving me the extra dose, which with an epidural, you can give yourself extra doses and it's not working. He said, well, I can top you off, but, you know, well, we have to make sure you're able to push when it's time. And I said, okay. So they topped me off, and that, like, numbed me. Like at the dentist. I could not feel I would put my hand on my stomach, and I could not feel that at all. But it didn't really work where my contractions were going on. I was already at a 9.5, right? And they did all of that, and I was like, this isn't working. And she checked me again. She goes, well, it's time to push. Can you push? And I said, yeah, I can feel everything. I can push. I want to push. I want to push. I want to push this baby out. So at about 11 o'clock in the morning, she started with practice pushes on me. With each contraction, they just started to come like bigger and stronger and closer together, and I just wanted to push and push and push and push and push. Problem was, they wanted me to wait, because here's what happened. My doctor was the on-call doctor in the hospital that weekend, but right about the time it was time for me to push, somebody else needed an emergency C-section. So there was no doctor to deliver my baby at that exact moment. They had to like scramble to try and get somebody here or at the hospital to deliver my baby, and thank God somebody did. But I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and there's no doctor anywhere in sight. And when they came in, and apparently, I mean, I was busy pushing. My husband's the one that actually told me this. He said that when they came in and told the nurse, my nurse, that the doctor was in a C-section, her face was like, what? And she turns to look at me, and she's like, that's okay, I've delivered babies before. And I don't care. Like, I don't care at this point. I don't care if the janitor catches my baby. I'm pushing this baby out. They wanted me to wait. And I said, hell no, I can't wait. At this point in my labor, I am not being nice to anyone. I have such tunnel vision, I'm not paying attention. Apparently they had brought in all the stuff for the baby and the bed and the warmer, and there's people in the room. I don't know that. I know my husband's somewhere over here, like lifting me up as I'm pushing, and I know the nurse is down here getting his head out. I think the doctor that finally did come in and get gowned up and everything, I pushed like 2-3 times by the time she got there, before he came out. Thank God. Thank God, because there was no one there there was no official doctor to catch my baby at the time. But it all worked out. So he came out, and then after that, I started to really clear up, because when you're in the throes of like, you're in pain, I felt all of it in my nether region, because like I said, the epidural failed where it needed to not fail. That was not fun. Oh, he came out, and then I was like, I remember everything after that. I don't remember a whole lot while I was pushing except for the pain. and the nurse. And then they took him out and put him on my chest. And after that, I just focused on him. I don't remember. I had to actually ask my husband days later. I'm like, did they deliver my placenta? Because I don't remember. I didn't push it out. I didn't cough it out. It just kind of came out on its own. I barely even remember my husband cutting the cord because I was in such disarray. So all that was done. He came out pretty fast. So from me thinking I was going into labor at 8 o'clock the next day, he was born at like 11:45 the next morning. And that, for my first baby, that was like ridiculous. But I went into labor the night before I was supposed to be induced, so he would have come anyway. So complications. Like I said, my epidural ended up failing in where it needed to. I am glad I could feel pushing, but it was really bad. And this little graphic, what does birthing a baby feel like? For me, it felt like the biggest number 2 you have ever felt in your life. I felt like I had just pooped out a watermelon. Not through my vagina, but through my butthole. A whole lot of pressure down there. It hurts so bad. Oh, it's okay. I ended up tearing, and I don't mean to put anybody off from having a baby, because I tore I asked her. So he's on my chest, they're cleaning him up. I asked her, you know, my feet are in the air, because she's gonna have to stitch me up, and I asked her, did I tear it all? She goes, oh yeah. Yeah, you got a 2nd degree tear. So I had a 2nd degree tear, perineal tear, I don't know how you say that, downstairs. But then she said, and you kind of tore other places. She said, but I basically tore every way I could have except one, which would be like a 4th degree tear. I tore down, I tore to the side, and I tore like up in a V as well. So I tore like 4 different places. She stitched me up, and that took like 30 minutes because I had such bad tearing. 1, I was just really small down there. 2, he had a big head. 3, it was my first baby. And 4, he came really fast. So, for a first timer, if I hadn't been induced, it probably wouldn't have taken as long. And he could have had a little more time. But I was glad that it took that. I was fine, because I'm like, get it out. The tearing did not, and the stitching, and that didn't hurt as near as bad as all that pressure from the pushing. For me, the pushing was worse than the labor, which I know some women don't, but I honestly don't feel like I labored for that long in pain. It was the pushing that was the bad part. He is 8 weeks old tomorrow, and I am still a little sore down there. When I went for my 5-week checkup with my OB, he said I still had stitches, and I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. And I'm almost there. I'm like 90% of the way back. Also, what ended up happening is when, you know, you first go to the bathroom after you've had a baby, that's really, you pretty much do that right away. And it pretty unnerving, but I sat down and I couldn't go. Like, my muscles down there were so, like, I had pushed them to the limit and they couldn't contract or do anything. It just wasn't coming out. But I said I can't go, so they got me back up to walk back to the bed, and all of a sudden I started like doing this, and the nurse was like, are you okay? The color's drained from your face. And I said, what? I can't hear you. And she said, get a wheelchair. So I was about to pass out. That happened about 3 times while I was in the hospital those first couple of days. And they had done blood work on me and found out I was anemic. And I had apparently been anemic while I was pregnant, but we didn't know it because you don't do blood work all the time. And all of the symptoms that I had, I just thought that was pregnancy symptoms. You know, I would just be sitting down and my heart would start to race. I'd be out of breath. I wouldn't be doing anything. And I just thought it was just pregnancy and not anemia, which, if you don't know what anemia is, it's when your red blood cells don't get oxygen to your brain enough. Something like that. So after all the fact they had to give me iron pills, which I had to take for like a few weeks after he was born, to get my blood levels back up, because when we got home, I was dizzy. That was the big thing, is that it made me really dizzy. I couldn't get up and take care of anything because I would like be running into stuff and like falling over. Not vertigo where the room was spinning, but like dizziness. But that got fixed, thank God. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh. He snores in his sleep. As far as his complications, you know, he was born at 7 pounds 5 ounces. I had a hard time breastfeeding. It was a struggle for both of us. When the first time I tried to breastfeed him, he got a couple of good, you know, swallows in, but he had been spitting up old blood. He had apparently gotten some in his amniotic fluid, some blood in there, and he was spitting it up, and it made his stomach, sour, so he didn't want to eat. And he had a horrible time latching, and I would get him on, and he would fall asleep. And because he wasn't eating, he was getting more and more sleepy, and he just wouldn't do it. So he ended up getting jaundice, which is like the breakdown of red blood cells, and that because he's not consuming anything, it's not coming out, and it's kind of getting toxic. So they had to put him in a little bassinet with UV lights and something to cover his eyes, which he hated, so that he could get his bilirubin back up to snuff. And I had to thank God I ended up bringing my breast pump just in case and keeping it in the car, because I ended up needing to use it. He wasn't taking me naturally or with a nipple shield. He just wasn't gonna have it. So we ended up hand expressing for like an emergency situation, and then like syringe feeding him for a few hours. And then I started to use my breast pump. Thank God that it had bottles and all that stuff in there, because I'd have been up a creek. We had to stay an extra day in the hospital because we checked in like Thursday night, and Sunday they said, you know, he has to have light therapy. Excuse me, I'm gonna move. He has to have light therapy, and you can't go home. And we were not even allowed to go home unless we promised to supplement with formula, because he had gotten down to like 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", which was way more than the 10% that they want you to lose. I pumped and fed him that way, and he had gained enough, and we had promised to supplement with formula until my milk supply was up to snuff. Now, my milk actually ended up kind of coming in before I even left the hospital. It came in really fast, and I pumped a lot. I pumped a good amount. The problem was when I was pumping, it was contracting the muscles in my back, which was weird. And I asked all these doctors, and they had no idea. The lactation consultant, when we had the appointment, said his pediatrician said at his first visit, the only thing I can think of is that the muscles in your chest connect to the muscles in your back. So when you're pumping in the front, it's connecting to the back, and my whole back, I'm talking from the back of my head down to my butt, I couldn't do it. I tried for about a week and a half, I think. I was anemic, so I'm stumbling around. I'm not able to even walk to the bathroom and back without holding onto the wall. And I am exhausted. I was really scared I was gonna drop him when it was my turn to take over, because my husband can't do it 24/7. He needs to sleep too. I had only gained about 15 pounds through my whole pregnancy, and I ended up losing the 15 pounds plus some. I think I ended up losing about 20 pounds in a week. I've actually gained a little bit of that back since then, but that's the anemia. Like, I'm not eating, I'm feeling horrible. So at the lactation consultant appointment, I said, look, I gotta quit. I am nauseous, I'm not eating, I am zapped. He's not sleeping, so I gotta, and he needs formula anyway. So I'm done. It was too physically demanding on me. And I had a sneaking suspicion that once I stopped the breastfeeding, I was gonna feel much better, and I did. So I was taking the iron supplements and I quit pumping, and immediately I felt 10 times better. He had gained enough weight. Now he's doing just great. His first appointment with the pediatrician, he was only in like the 18th percentile, and now he's in like the 59th percentile. So that's good. He does have really bad, painful baby reflux, which is why I wear him all the time. He doesn't like he cannot lay down. It's painful. It comes back into his esophagus and he just screams and screams. So I've been busy. That's what I've been doing for the last, I don't know how long, 2 months since I've had him. That's all I've got for you today. If you have any questions about how my birthing process went, feel free to comment and ask. I'm an open book. There's nothing that happened to me that I'm not willing to talk about. Good luck to anybody out there who's having a baby. We're all on the same team. All right. So, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe before you leave, and we'll catch you later.